And we're live, and I'm in the wrong part of the room where the camera can't see me. But now I'm here. Hello. Welcome to another Soundbooth Live. I'm Will Watt, and I'm here with Dave Willmarth. And we're going to be joined at some point by Jeff Hayes and Annie Ellicott. Oh, shit. I've left the video up, and it's coming through my headphones. I just need to stop it so I'm not getting confused over the screen.
Is it a good video?
It's a great video. It's the video of me talking, so I'm just literally hearing myself parroted in my ear. But about 20 seconds later, very confusing. Dave, how are you doing?
Good, man. How you been?
Not bad. It's been a big week for you this week, right?
Yeah, it's been a launch week. It's been doing my usual thing.
Nice.
I was feeding the neighbor's dogs and cat, and the cat tried to kill me, so I've been kind of laid up this week.
It tried to kill you?
Yeah,
like with a knife or like poison?
Well, close enough. I was feeding the dogs. I was walking with 3 bowls of dog food in my hand, and the cat walked between my feet and tripped me.
Oh, geez.
And I hit the counter with my head on my way down, and yeah, it was a bad day. But
wow,
I'm alive.
Good. Well, that's good, because I think we've got a number of voracious fans who'd be a bit pissed off if they didn't know what happened next.
The cat's alive too, surprisingly.
Really? Well, that's good. Lives to tell another tale. But they have 9 lives anyway, right? So, like,
right. Exactly.
Tricksy little buggers. They're never gonna fully escape.
Sounds like you've recovered okay. Your voice is back to normal.
Just about. I still have these like horrible coughing bouts where, like, randomly during the middle of the day I'll be like, oh, here it comes, and I just stand there like hacking up a lung. Which have been plaguing me since the end of this week, but I'm definitely getting better. To those not in the know, I've been wiped out and I haven't been able to record, which has been frustrating because I've had a cold, which I think is a little bit miserable, given that it's only October. Who gets a cold in late September, early October? Like, it's still
do like I did. Mix Robitussin and whiskey. That'll work.
Wow, I've never had Robitussin. I've heard of it though. It's a very American thing.
It's magic, man. It fixes it. Broken bones, whatever you got, it'll fix it.
Really? Wow. No wonder America's keeping it such a greatly kept secret, I've been surviving off of those, you go to Walgreens and you get those like menthol candy things, and like they are just candy, but like they're slightly minty, and so it makes you feel like they're medicine.
They taste like medicine, yeah.
Exactly. I'm being very mature by having 7 packs of these every day. And it gets me on a sugar high, so at least there's that. So I'm just going to go and have a little look. Again, anybody who has ever been on a live stream with me knows that my computer is over there on the other side of the room, and where I sit is over here on this side of the room. So if I ever need to engage with the computer, it takes about half an hour to make the trek across. But I'm going to go and have a little look to see if Annie or Jeff have joined us yet. And no, they haven't. Good. So that was a wasted skirmish. So how are things going with the with book 3? You've just launched. Have you already started writing book 4, or are you having a break for it?
I have notes on book 4. I'm actually writing the Fibble book, the offshoot from the Greystone series. So I'm writing a Fibble book right now.
Nice.
Once that's done, I'll start on writing Shadow Sun 4 for real. But
cool.
Shadow Sun 3 is doing great. I launched it on Monday. It's currently in the. Last time I looked, it was ranked about 225 overall. So
incredible.
Yeah, it's people seem to be, for the most part, liking it. There's always that 1 2-star reviewer out there that's happy, but the rest.
Yeah. No, I've had a lot of feedback. The gauge for me is when I record an audiobook and people start adding me on Facebook as a result of it. That's when I'm like, oh people like this one. And that's definitely been the case ever since your book launched. All of a sudden, I've become very aware of it, whether it's been people sending me messages, random people adding me on Facebook, or getting tagged in all the groups.
I don't know about you, but I have not previously been real popular with the prepper society, but since these books come out, I get a whole lot of friend requests from like Washington and Oregon and Montana and places out there. The people that are reading Shadow Sun as a prepper book, and so it's brought a whole new audience.
I don't even know what a prepper is.
Doomsday preppers. They're the guys that they build their shelters out in the woods, and they stock up guns and food, and I have my zombie apocalypse prep down in the basement, but I'm not a hardcore prepper like these guys are. But
So
it has.
I'd been kind of tangentially aware that these people exist, right? Because there's a couple of TV shows that I've seen. There was a documentary, I think, that followed like a guy whose job is to like build underground permanent living like bunkers for like nuclear winter situations and stuff. And then also I was going through the closets in my apartment here like last year, kind of just having a bit of a clean out, and I found that my roommate has an apocalypse survival bag. Like he has a bag that has like a couple of bags of penicillin in it, like a flashlight, a fire starter, like all of this stuff. Like it's a big old backpack full of all of these things that you need in the case of an apocalypse or anything. But the thing that made me laugh is that he has steak seasoning in there, and he's a vegetarian.
Hey, that's important, man. You got to have some flavor in your spam that you got to eat for 10 years in your underground hole.
It's true. It's true. It just showed the length to which he'd like pre-planned this. I was like, wow, you've really like gone all out to like make sure you're like. And I don't want to be inconvenienced by a bland meal. So when I'm running for my life through the wilderness, I want to be able to stack up, light a fire with the flint that I have here attached to this Swiss Army knife, and have some delicious food. And I'm like, okay, I can't fault that. That's that's good. I have no such zombie survival pack. I'm going to be fucked. If the world ends, I'm going to die first. But
I'm not too far from New York. You can always drive down here and hang out in the zombie apocalypse basement with me.
Perfect. Just if you could like send word up to make sure that no one tries to like, I don't know, shoot me on the way or anything. Right? I'm not a great driver either, so it's gonna be an interesting one. But I appreciate that I have that option. Let's see if Jeff or Annie are here yet. We have Jeff.
Somebody's on
the screen.
I'm here.
Hello.
There he is.
Oh my God, I forgot to shave. Look at me.
Oh,
like so homeless. Sorry, guys.
There we go. You look homeless. I think you look beautiful as always, Jeff.
Oh,
absolutely ravishing.
Oh,
you're too hard on yourself.
Anytime your face is up there next to mine, you're gonna look good. So don't worry about it.
Oh, guys, come on, pick up ourselves. So how are you doing, Jeff? It's been a week.
I'm super tired.
Good.
Lots of man, my schedule is just chock full, and I have to fit taxes into it because
everyone's favorite.
Yeah, everyone's favorite. I got the extension, and now it's running out. I've been doing sound effects for Everybody Loves Large Chests 4.
Nice.
I'm almost done. I like have an eighth of the book left to do the sound effects for, and it's probably the most intensive sound effect part because it all coalesces into this one huge battle. So
very cool. Yeah. And have you downloaded your copy of Shadow Sun 3 yet?
Shadow Sun 3, I have not yet.
You have
not yet. I'm sorry.
Why not?
I have 2 right here in front of me.
Fair.
3.
It'll get there. It'll get there.
Gotten 2 yet, but I bet a bunch of people on our Facebook page did already. Ooh, you got the Lefroy going. Now I think
that's this. I just wanted to say thank you for this. This is the bottle you gave me at DaveCon.
Oh, nice.
A few weeks ago, or last month. So
did you already crack it open?
No, man. I'm saving it for a special occasion.
All right.
We'll drink it together.
All righty.
Okay, so romantic.
Man, I feel like maybe we should drink something, right? For this. Is that a bar behind you?
Is that a what?
It looks like that's his bar behind him.
Yeah, it is. It's my whole bar. I don't know if you guys can see.
Hell yeah.
Amazing.
Oh man, I need to get my shit together and get a bar like that.
Yeah, I feel left out that I don't have a bar of my own.
I come fully stocked.
Jeez, I'm impressed.
Okay, so you still have the going live at 7:30 Eastern.
Oh,
banner up?
Let's remove that.
People know.
I think they figured that one out. There we go. Annie's still not here. I wonder where she is. Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? The last I heard from her was about 12 minutes ago when she was like, okay, looks like I need to download Google Chrome. Well, maybe it's going to be the me and you show for this evening.
Oh, she's coming. She doesn't need to download Chrome. She's got it. She's just She's just a lost duckling.
Oh well. Oh
I
well.
have noticed that a lot of artists have a loose relationship with time.
It's correct. It's correct. I struggle. I struggle in my day to day, but I sound pretty when I talk, so I need to.
I'll be right back. I definitely want some whiskey.
I feel like I should get some whiskey now. My roommate's actually out in the living room waiting for me to finish with this. She's just cut up some limes because I make a particularly good margarita.
Don't let us stop you, man. Go load up and.
I feel like I can't without her, though. I feel like I'd be, I'd be betraying her trust if I went out there and snaffled all of the delicious limes that she's set up for me. I'll get myself a cup of water. That'll make me feel at least part of it.
There you go.
Part of the club.
I found out that YouTube doesn't allow drinking on videos anymore.
Really?
For real?
Totally rat us out.
That's going to cause some trouble with all the backlog Drinking with Charles videos we've done. All 180 of them.
It's most of them anyway.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, I've prefaced it by saying that I'm drinking water, so I'm taking the responsible route.
Nice brown apple juice.
Yes, apple juice.
Aged apple juice.
No one will ever know. We've got on food, guys. Do we think Annie's in the room yet?
I can't tell. You're the only person who can tell.
In fact, what I might do is move this out of the way so I can see from where I'm sitting. I won't be able to see from where I'm sitting. Should we have a bit of a read? Should we give the people what they want?
Yes.
Annie's just texted me saying, I don't understand what I'm not doing. I'm sorry. It's okay. It's okay. Let me just send her the link again.
While we're waiting, Trey, there may be a Dark Elf 4 some point down the line after a few thousand people have bought and read it. It's just right now it doesn't have enough of an audience for me to keep going on that series.
Okay.
So it's a glass of water, but it's really Everclear. How dare you, Trey?
Do we want to do a bit of chapter 1? Ease people in?
Sure. Let's see here. Where are we at?
I think everybody that's in the chat at least has read 1 and 2, if not 3.
Amazing. Right. Let's bring it to life before their eyes.
So I'm Austin.
Yeah. Could you be Helen for me as well?
Okay. That sounds like right down my alley.
Amazing.
Is that supposed to be Andy?
Yes. Okay. Ordinarily. And I'm sure you're going to do her just brilliantly.
I'm sure I will. Hold on. Annie's.
Some of the female voices in book 1, I had a hard time telling whether it was Annie or Andrea.
Oh yeah, I don't know either of their voices, because I don't ever really hear them apart from in the audiobooks, and so I can't really tell usually. I'm like, it's one of them. It's one of them, one of the two. I get the same with Jeff and Justin sometimes as well when I'm listening to them, and I'm like, and I'll convince myself it's one of them, and then I don't know.
You got a 50-50 shot.
Exactly right. I know I'll be right with one of my assumptions.
I think she almost has it.
Oh yeah?
I think she almost has it.
I'm looking at the screen waiting for it to pop up. I'm so excited.
Are we expecting Andy too, or just Annie?
Andy was not able to make it.
Okay.
Oh, I feel like we need a drum roll. She sat there listening to all of this as well. She must feel very vulnerable.
Poor duckling.
Anyway, well, if you're going to be Helen for now, should we start off with chapter 1? Chapter 1: Bears do it in the woods. Alistair and Helen both sipped coffee from thermoses in the early morning silence. They pulled the ranger truck over to the side of the road and let Fuzzy out when he indicated that he needed to go. The bear cub was more than twice the size he'd been when Alistair first found him trapped at the waterfall. Though he was only several days older and just as cute as ever, the cub leveled up several times and his body had grown larger. Watching him waddle into the brush alongside the road, Helen chuckled.
He's like one of those big prize bears you see at the carnival, just as cute as the little ones, but on steroids.
Alistair smiled as his companion disappeared amid much rustling and shaking of bushes. He's not exactly stealthy, is he? And at this rate, I'm going to have dedicate a part of each day hunting just for him. He eats like a full-grown bear. Turning in her seat so that she was facing forward, she looked down the road ahead of them, then consulted the map in her lap. As usual, they were taking back roads, exploring the territory and looking for interesting potential outposts or sources of useful loot. They'd left the citadel before sunrise, 2 days later than Alistair had planned. There had been business he needed to take care of at his various properties, like driving up the gun shop to retrieve a second Barrett 50 cal and other weapons. But now they'd hit the road again and were headed in the general direction of Laramie, about 50 miles west of Cheyenne. Alistair meant to establish a stronghold there before moving on to Denver. It wasn't safe to travel the roads over long distances anymore, but with the ability to set up a teleportation network that he'd won for constructing the first citadel on Earth, they could establish a wide network of strongholds and citadels and travel instantly between them.
At our current pace, assuming Fuzzy cooperates, we should be in Laramie by noon.
Helen observed. Before the world ended, the trip would have taken about an hour, cruising along the interstate. But those days were over. Abandoned and destroyed vehicles littered the roads, and creatures, both native and alien, had claimed their own territories. Earth's predators had begun to grow and mutate under the laws of Earth's new game system as they killed and consumed their prey. Just as Fuzzy had done, the wolves, bears, snakes, birds, and even fish had grown larger, stronger, faster, and hungrier. So travelers needed to keep a constant lookout for threats any time they were outside a safe zone. Good. Alistair followed Helen's gaze down the empty road. He saw nothing but tall trees and brush on either side. That'll give us some time to poke around a bit before we have to find shelter for the night. A sudden thrashing in the underbrush nearby had both of them gripping their weapons. Helen held a Winchester 30-06, is that how I say it?
Yes, that's exactly.
Hunting rifle with a scope, while Alistair produced his shotgun loaded with slugs for stopping power. Not wanting to shoot past their head, Alistair climbed into the back seat of the Ranger's SUV and rolled down the window, even as Helen pointed her rifle toward the disturbance. Speaking just loudly enough for Alistair to hear, Helen said,
"That's right near where Fuzzy went. Hold your fire until we're sure it's not him."
Alistair nodded, then let out the breath he didn't know he'd been holding a moment later when Fuzzy emerged from the brush with a rabbit in his jaws. Helen snorted. "I see her! She's here!
She's here?
Come join the party!
Hi.
Welcome!"
She made it.
Hey, how you doing? Come on in. Pull up a chair. Where were we?
Annie's a brick house today.
Annie's a brick house?
Yep.
Is that a euphemism?
No, look.
Nice.
Oh my goodness, that's very cool. That's amazing. Hold on, let me bring it up on my iPad. I can't see it properly.
We're top of page 5.
Oh,
If you're looking at the Word doc.
that's incredible. I love it.
You almost match your background your back wall back there, Annie.
Uh-oh.
Wait, can we hear her?
She's muted.
Oh no.
You have to click unmute.
No, I think she just needs to switch her microphone over.
So we can say stuff about her and she can't respond.
Because we could hear her a second ago, right? Try opening the door. It might be that it's coming from the wrong...
Okay, how do I switch the microphone on this platform?
Settings at the bottom.
Well, I want to know how come opening the door switches microphones.
It must be like...
the microphone.
I have the internal microphone on my laptop. Here we go.
It's the fun game of switcheroo that us voice actors have to play multiple times a day.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, you did it.
If you adjust your seat, does it switch you to a different microphone too?
It's very technical.
Yeah, it's like a very Austin Powersy kind of setup.
Dude.
Like all of my levers are in my furniture, and I just have to like do a cool little.
I love it. You
Swivel.
press a button and like a martini pops out of a little like hole.
Uh-huh.
Press another button, the whole booth starts spinning
Exactly.
slowly. The mood
Mhm.
lighting goes
The
on.
mood- and the mood music. Yeah.
I think that's
Now,
perfect.
now I kind of want a booth.
So-
That's
so
what booths
you're-
are like. It's really cool.
Your line is up. Maybe you won't have to hunt. You're Helen.
Oh, are we
sorry.
throwing Annie in as
Well,
as Andrea?
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
Perfect.
She sounds so much prettier than me.
I don't know. You sound very pretty, Jeff.
So say what's the page?
It's page 5. Page 5 near the top starts with Helen snorted.
It's page 7 in our version of it.
Oh, my bad. That's right, because yours is all marked up and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's this is I don't have it doesn't show pages. It's
Okay, so it starts. Maybe you won't have to hunt as much as you think. It's at the top of the page.
it may not be the same page, you know what I
Can
mean?
you do a word search? Like maybe you won't have to hunt.
Right.
It's like really close.
It's the very beginning of the book, so it's not far
Maybe you
down.
won't have to hunt as much.
She's talking about
Okay.
Fuzzy.
Okay. Remind me what Helen sounds like?
Helen's the park ranger.
She's like Andrea's character normally.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you can
I'm
have fun with it.
Helen. Okay, wait, is this Helen? Helen's the one that talks like this?
When I do it, yeah.
for today.
Doesn't Andy have a character that talks like this, but that's not Helen?
Oh yeah, I think she does because I think she based it off of my reference file, which was me just doing a
Okay.
stupid voice.
Okay, just but that's not Helen, is that correct?
Well, but for today, she can sound however you want her. We're not recording this. So.
Okay.
Helen's an outdoorsy
Maybe-
badass. She's a ranger.
Okay, here we go. Maybe you won't have to hunt as much as you think. He seems to be pretty good at feeding himself.
You didn't snort.
Jeff, that was such a good take, and you just dragged us through the mud.
snorting part was on the fucking previous page, so I didn't see it.
I call foul. I'm going to carry on. Alice that opened the
Maybe
back
you won't have
door.
to hunt as much as you think.
Beautifully delivered. That was the nuance in that snort was.
Yeah.
Okay, let me do this. All right. Maybe you won't have to hunt as much as you think. He seems to be pretty good at feeding himself.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who? Move over. Alistair opened the back door and got out, holding it open like a valet for his furry companion. But before he let Fuzzy hop in, he held out a hand. Give me the rabbit, Fuzzy. I'll put it in storage for you. You can't be making a mess of it in the back seat. We'll roast it for you later. Fuzzy glared at him for a moment, obviously not thrilled about giving up his kill.
Yeah.
He was, after all, a wild bear until very recently. I wasn't expecting that. It caught me off guard, but I love it. But becoming Alistair's bonded pet had civilized him quite a lot. Still, rather than politely hand the prize to Alistair, he dropped it at his human's feet. Then, with a derisive snort, he climbed up into the truck, spun around twice, and plopped down on the seat. Oh, so it's like that. Maybe I should have named you Grumpy instead of Fuzzy. Alistair bent down and retrieved the bunny corpse, storing it in his inventory ring. The extra-dimensional space inside the ring was a timeless void where the meat would remain exactly as it was until removed. Closing the door, he walked around the back of the truck and got back into the driver's seat. Putting the truck in gear, they continued on down the road. Helen held the atlas book a little closer to her face and squinted a bit.
Says there's a small lake and a marshland up ahead just a bit. I don't know this area as well as I know my park, but might be a good place to stop and get some fish to feed His Majesty back there.
She jerked her head toward the back seat, and Fuzzy chuffed in agreement. Alistair looked at his bear in the rearview mirror. Oh, hush. You just want to play in the water. To which Fuzzy replied with what Alistair had come to call his innocent face. With a sigh, Alistair agreed. Sure, we've got poles in the back. We'll catch some fish for all of us. Maybe you or I will be able to raise our cooking skill tonight. Alistair was all about developing and improving skills, not just himself, but all his people as well. Since their homeworld had been taken by the aliens and the near genocide of the human race commenced, the surviving humans had basically become NPCs in some kind of universal game. Alistair was determined that if his people were going to be NPCs, then they would be elite NPCs, not pushovers for the alien invaders when they arrived in less than a year's time. Another of the rewards that came with the first Citadel was an extensive library filled with knowledge that could help his people grow stronger. He had Ramon leading a team of people investigating the library and its contents. Ramon was to train a few additional people in his scribe skills, which allowed him to make copies of spells and scrolls, and, Alistair hoped, eventually entire books and manuals. Those copies could then be passed on to his people and the spells learned. He wanted, at a minimum, for every one of his citizens to be able to fight, heal, and craft something.
By the way, in this series of books, Ramon is the most badass of all the characters in this book, including the MC, because he's the guy that learns all the magic spells so he can copy them down for everybody else. So he knows more magic. He can do more shit than anybody else.
Is he one of the guys that's based on someone in real life as well?
Yeah, Ramon is the lit RPG scribe. He's the guy that does the podcast and keeps track of all the books in his website.
Amazing. I love that nod.
His voice is based on Ramon as well.
Oh, yeah, because you do him, right? 30 minutes down the road, they came upon a gravel parking area that sloped down toward the lake Helen had spotted. Already, the grass and shrubs were starting to encroach on the cleared area, reclaiming it for the forest. Alistair parked the truck and got out, walking to the back to retrieve the fishing gear as Helen let Fuzzy out. His nose held high in indignation, Fuzzy strolled down to the water's edge and began to sniff. Hey, buddy, don't get into the water just yet, okay? The last lake I visited had a fish big enough to swallow you whole. The bear cub, who had a foot raised and was about to step into the water, pulled back and sat down on the gravel, now staring suspiciously into the water. Chuckling, Alistair carried a couple of poles, a bucket, and a tackle box down the slope to where Helen stood looking across the water. Handing her one of the poles, he set the rest down and opened the tackle box. After a quick glance toward Fuzzy, he whispered, "We can use bits of the rabbit for bait. Cast it way out there. If nothing big hits it, we'll know it's safe for him to go in." Helen just winked, preparing her pole, said the actress to the bishop. Hang tight, Fuzzy. We'll test the waters real quick. Alistair freed the already threaded hook from one of the guide rings on his pole, then reached into his inventory and produced the rabbit. Using Helen as a shield so Fuzzy couldn't see, he used his belt knife to cut a few furry, meaty bits from the rabbit's leg before stowing it back in his inventory. He ignored the curious sniffs from his bear as he handed a chunk to Helen before baiting his own hook. Quickly casting the bait far out into the water, he risked a glance at the bear, who was sniffing at the breeze and giving him and Helen both a suspicious look. Helen managed to keep a straight face as she pretended to ignore the bear cub, casting her own line out a good 50 yards to splash down in the mostly serene water. She immediately began to reel it back in very slowly, a few inches at a time in jerky motion, hoping to attract the attention of any aquatic predators. As Alistair did the same, Fuzzy got up and paced back and forth along the water's edge. He sniffed at the ripples caused by their lines as they reached the gravel shore, but remained out of the water. They each had to cast 3 more times before Alistair got a bite. Whatever it was, it hit his bait like a pit bull grabbing a hot dog and immediately tried to swim away with it. Alistair's reel screamed as the fishing line unwound at a rapid pace. He increased the drag a bit, hoping to slow the thing down before he set the hook, worried about snapping the filament line. Eventually, it slowed enough that he felt confident that the line would hold, and he jerked back on the pole as he leaned backward to put his body weight into it. A violent thrashing began far out into the water, where his fish reacted to the jerk of the hook. Alistair immediately began pulling on the rod to create slack, then quickly reeling it in. Every few seconds, he gained ground on the fish, pulling it toward him, then taking up the slack. The pole bent nearly double each time he yanked on it, and he began to fear it would break. While he fought his catch, Helen got a hit on her line as well and began to reel it in. Fuzzy, excited now, hopped up and down with his front feet, grunting as if encouraging them to hurry up. Alistair gave another heave on his pole, and his catch shot out of the water near his feet.
We should make a mixtape of Jeff's fuzzy sounds and just play that.
It's really these are like hotcakes.
It's absolutely beautiful. It was a lake trout, maybe 6 feet long. When Helen saw the size of it, she nearly dropped her pole.
Damn,
That's what she said.
a big one.
She gave her
That's what she
pole
meant.
another tug, and it too bent nearly double.
You're doing this on purpose. You're doing this on
I
purpose.
think so. I think so.
Hey, come on, it's fishing. You got to make fishing interesting somehow, right?
High
If there's
octane.
okay. Sorry, did you already say nearly double?
I can't remember. She gave her pole another tug, and it too bent nearly double.
If they're growing this fast, we're gonna need a bigger pole.
Alistair snorted. Oh yeah, that's me. If I had a dime for every time a woman said that to me. He saw her roll her eyes before he returned his attention to the fish flopping around on the gravel. It was as long as he was tall and fat. He thought it might be heavier than him. Just the one fish could provide meat for several people, or one bear cub for days. He was just bending down to take hold of its tail to drag it farther from the water when Fuzzy took over. Grabbing the tail in his jaws, he clamped down and began to walk backward, pulling the fish up the slope. It continued to thrash a bit, but was quickly suffocating. Can we get a suffocating fish sound effect? That would be great. Alistair looked at the 5-gallon bucket he brought along to store their catch in and just laughed. We're going to need a bigger bucket too. Using a pair of pliers from the tackle box, he carefully and quickly pried the hook free of the lake trout's jaw and stepped away. Fuzzy was sniffing and licking the fish, but didn't seem inclined to take a bite. Alistair left him to it. He stepped back to the water's edge, cut himself another bit of bunny bait, and got his line back in the water just as Helen landed her catch. It was another lake trout, this one maybe 50 pounds. She took a minute to catch her breath and admire the thing before calling Fuzzy to help her. He quickly obliged, dragging the second fish back to sit next to the first after she freed her hook.
I think maybe 1 or 2 more each, and we'll have plenty of fish for a week.
She observed as Alistair paused to grab her a new chunk of bait. When I catch the next one, I'll see if they stack in my inventory. If they do, we might as well grab a bunch of them and take some back to our friends. Maybe a dozen?
That blows my mind that you can just switch back and forth like that.
Years of practice.
Although
That'd-
we Yanks say inventory.
Oh, do you?
Inventory. Inventory.
Oh.
Did you say inventory?
Inventory.
We said inventory.
Yeah.
Inventory. That'd be enough to feed everyone we've got now at all 3 locations.
They continued fishing for a solid hour, chatting occasionally, but mostly silent as they cast and reeled. Fuzzy got his feet wet, sniffing at the water, but didn't go in. Alistair thought maybe the sheer size of the fish they were landing intimidated him. He helped them drag each catch back from the water's edge until they had a full dozen of the big fish. Alistair tried a couple of them and found that they did indeed stack in a single now I'm wondering how the British pronounce it. I think inventory is the British pronunciation, and then I don't know. Who knows?
Inventory.
Inventory. And found that they did indeed stack in a single inventory slot in his ring, which was awesome. As they packed up the gear and headed back to the
Slot
truck
in his ring.
in his ring, as they packed up the gear and headed back to the truck, Helen said,
Best estimate, we have about 700 pounds of fish there, meaning about 400 pounds of usable meat and 300 in heads, tails, and other parts Fuzzy will probably eat.
as if in agreement, the bear licked his lips and bobbed his head several times. Helen laughed.
Glutton? It's not even lunchtime.
Alistair produced the rabbit from his ring and tossed it to the bear. We need to wait a few while you dry out, so you might as well eat. He then deposited the rest of the fish into his ring. Fuzzy sniffed at the rabbit, then nosed it over so that the carved up. Oh, sniffing rabbits and depositing fish in your rings. Fuzzy sniffed at the rabbit, then nosed it over so that the carved up leg Alistair had stolen bait chunks from was visible to the humans. He gave an annoyed snort and shake of his head, obviously accusing his master of stealing. Alistair laughed. Sorry, buddy, but those chunks were the bait that helped us catch all those tasty fish. Somewhat mollified, Fuzzy plopped down on his belly and began to pull apart the bunny. Alistair opened the back end of the truck and was stowing away the gear when Helen screamed, followed immediately by a roar from Fuzzy. Alistair hit his head on the door frame as he straightened to see what had happened. Pain lanced through his brain as his vision went spotty for a moment. Rubbing the sore spot, he stepped back from the truck and stood upright. Looking toward Helen, even as he was reaching for his shotgun, what he saw initially had him thinking his vision was still off.
This is where the battle music starts.
Hovering just above Helen was a dragonfly the size of a golf cart. Its four wings buzzed angrily as it swooped down and tried to take hold of her with its 6 clawed legs. Helen ducked and swerved, running through the truck and screaming again. Alice didn't blame her one bit. The thing was nightmare fuel. Its dead black eyes focused on its prey, revealing no anger, offering no mercy, or showing feeling of any kind. Dragon Wing Hunter, level 12, health 9,000 of 9,000. Alistair pumped a slug into the chamber and took aim. At the same time, he shouted, "Helen, get down!" The moment she dropped to the ground, he fired at the massive Woohoo! Gosh, too much excitement for my lungs to handle. The moment she dropped to the ground, he fired at the massive flying insect. The slug tore through one of its wings near where it joined the bug's torso, causing it to falter midair. He pumped another round and fired again, this time hitting its midsection. The exoskeleton cracked, but the slug didn't penetrate. Now distracted by Alistair's attacks and abandoning its pursuit of Helen, the dragonfly recovered some semblance of control and shot forward into Alistair's face. He couldn't help but scream as the multi-eyed chitin-covered face pressed in close. My turn to scream. Mandibles snapping hungrily at him. He managed to avoid having his face eaten by dropping to the ground, but was too slow to escape the grasping legs. Its barbed appendages latched onto his left arm and shoulder, and the wings beat furiously. Alistair yelled, "Help!" as the thing began to drag him away from the truck. With its damaged wing, it wasn't strong enough to lift him into the air. Still, being dragged away by a giant insect was more than enough to send his lizard brain into a panic. He screamed like a 10-year-old girl and began to beat at the legs holding him. Remembering his shotgun, he aimed it upward and pulled the trigger without even thinking. The slug blasted into the creature's abdomen, punching through the exoskeleton and into the nasty-smelling guts inside. Alistair gagged as the fluid gushed out onto his face, covering him from head to toe. The wing beats gradually slowed, then stopped, and the insect's corpse dropped directly on top of him. He felt suffocated, trying not to inhale the nasty ichor that still leaked from the corpse, while pushing to lift it off of him. A moment later, he felt some fresh air on his face as Helen helped to drag the thing off him. Rolling onto his stomach, he propped himself up on his hands and knees and puked out his breakfast onto the gravel. When he was done vomiting and spitting, Helen handed him a canteen. He swished some of the water around before spitting it out. Getting to his feet, he saw the disgusted look on her face.
You've got bug juice all over you. I recommend a dip in the lake. You're certainly not getting in the truck like that.
Anxious to get the smell off of himself, Alistair didn't hesitate. He walked to the water's edge, got down on his knees, then plunged his head into the water. Scrubbing his face and hair, then his neck, chest, and arms, he managed to get all the nasty goo off. When he straightened back up, he was soaked from the waist up. Fuzzy was sitting there, a grin on his cubby face. He took a few tentative sniffs of Alistair and shook his head. Reaching into the water with one paw, he splashed some water on his human.
I think he's saying you missed a spot or two.
Helen laughed. Alistair sniffed at himself, but his nose was already so polluted by the stench he couldn't tell if he still stunk or not. So he stripped down to his boxers and just walked into the water. When he was waist deep, he sank down and began to scrub himself in earnest using sand from the lake bed. Helen took hold of his abandoned clothes and started using the gravel and sand in the shallow water to scrub them clean. Fuzzy thought it was some kind of game and kept pouncing on the laundry as she laid it out flat to dry in the sun. Alistair called to her from the water. "It's actually quite refreshing in here. You should join me. And yes, you can swim too, Fuzzy." The bear cub didn't hesitate, charging into the shallow water, then leaping toward Alistair as Helen quickly finished scrubbing and laying out his clothes. Then she stripped her bra and underwear and hopped in to join the fun. The water was cold, but not terribly so. The sun-warmed shallows were invigorating. They swam around and dunked each other, Fuzzy being very careful not to scratch anyone with his claws.
All right. Hey, real quick, do you want to stick to this scene, or maybe do you want to find?
Yeah, no, we can switch to a different one if you want. This one's kind of doesn't.
I think it's run its course. Agreed. Good Helen, good Fuzzy, guys. Proud of you both. What was the? I'm just looking up the page number for the other scene that you suggested, Dave, and I've just realized that the page numbers are different. But are you able to give me the first line from it?
I think it's Ramon got up and joined Alistair, but hold on just a second, I'll make sure. Yeah, Ramon got up and joined Alistair.
Okay.
It's the scene pretty far into the book where they're getting ready to go to see Meg in the kitchen and they find Fuzzy there.
Got up and joined.
It's on roughly page 226 in my version, so it'll be 250-ish probably in yours.
What's the line?
Ramon got up and joined Alistair.
It is in page 469 of our manuscript.
Wow. Okay.
I know when I first got it through, when I first opened it up, I was like, let's see how many pages this is. 1,258?
There must be a whole lot of markups on that.
There's just a lot of there's like a lot of color coding and blank space, and like the dialogue is larger, and like
so it's turned into a script.
It has, yeah, takes up a lot of room.
Yeah, the original's 560 pages or something. So
Wow.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah, I think it's the longest I've done for Soundbooth, I think.
Okay, so the line that you gave us, it looks like it starts kind of like in the middle of the scene.
Yeah, there's a whole meeting that went on before that, but their meeting with Fuzzy comes up after that line.
Okay, so where do you want us to start then? Just right there? I wouldn't say anything.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Right there at that line.
I'll cue you in, babes. Ramon got up and joined Alistair, but said,
I wouldn't say anything other than nice kitchen to Meg. She takes that shit seriously. Teasing her about it is like poking Fuzzy while he sleeps.
Speaking of which, have you seen my bear? I've sort of gotten used to him just being around, and I'm not sure when he left me.
Nope. Been in that room almost since I got here. But I don't get out much anymore. So many things to read and write.
It didn't take long to solve the mystery of Fuzzy's disappearance. They found him in the kitchen doing his best to mooch scraps from Meg and Sam. Alistair wasn't even all the way through the door when Meg scolded.
Curb your damn flea-bitten, overgrown teddy bear.
The scolding lost a lot of its heat when she tossed a chunk of raw meat to Fuzzy, who didn't seem the least bit offended by the name calling.
Don't you ever feed this poor fella?
Alistair shrugged. He mostly feeds himself. Just a little while ago, he was chewing on some guy's nose. Meg stared at him, then pointed to the door.
Out! All of you, out of my kitchen! Take that snot-eating monstrosity with you.
She picked up a wicked-looking fork and flung it past Alistair to stick in the door. Sam chuckled in the background as Fuzzy snatched up his fibble and retreated, confused. Alistair stopped near the door. Nice kitchen, Meg, he called out before ducking through the door. Now Ramon was laughing too.
Real original, hero.
Ramon patted Fuzzy's head to reassure the bear, who was still wondering why Meg was feeding him one moment and chasing him away the next. Hey, I was under fire. Had to think fast. Alistair shrugged. The two men and bear cub made their way to the dining hall, which was a former hearing room or something. Meg had moved walls, rearranged things as she liked them, attached the kitchen, and was already producing their first big meal. Taking seats at one of the long tables, Alistair spent some quality time with Ramon and Fuzzy. They talked about the library and any new skill or spell info that Ramon might have discovered. As they spoke, Alistair scratched the bear cub's ears under his chin, then had to get on the floor and rub his tummy when the bear rolled onto his back to demand it. That, of course, turned into a wrestling session, which Ramon couldn't resist getting in on. When Forks started drifting into the room for mealtime, they found Alistair. When folks started drifting into the room for meal, like in my head, I was like,
took a strange turn.
Right,
like suddenly, like a vintage Disney cartoon.
Yeah, right. Sorcerer's Apprentice just happened.
I was thinking like a sort of Hogwarts situation where they're like enchanted and floating through the air. There's some like mystical choral singing as like a turkey follows them on a plate. Directed by Tim Burton. When folks started
butterbeer.
Perfect. The perfect accompaniment to Flying Forks. When folks started drifting into the room for mealtime, they found Alistair and Ramon dive tackling the bear cub, then rolling around tickling and biting him as he fought back. At one point, Alistair seized the fibble doll and rolled away. Getting to his feet, he waved the slimy, slobbery thing at Fuzzy.
That cub's gonna get some revenge when it's grown.
Right.
It's gonna fucking murder them all.
It's all fun and cute now, but he's got grand designs. He's like, yeah, laugh it up, guys. Laugh it up. I'm an apex fucking predator, bitch. Got your doll. I've kidnapped Fibble. Oh no. Fuzzy let out a roar, making nearly everyone in the large room jump and dove after Alistair. Chairs and tables were flung aside as the laughing human used them as obstacles to maintain his lead. Eventually, though, the four-legged speed of the bear cub won out, and he managed to extend a paw and trip Alistair. The human fell on his face, and Fuzzy dove atop him, frantically sniffing and snuffling to find his doll, which was buried under his human. Yeah, get that wet nose out of my face, Alistair complained, pushing the bear's massive head away. Here's your smelly old doll. He rolled away, revealing Fuzzy's prized possession, which the bear snatched up before retreating into a corner, giving Alistair a dirty look the whole time. When he got to his feet, Alistair immediately noticed two things. The room was half destroyed, and everyone was staring at him. With a mostly straight face, he said, gotta keep him amused or he'll eat somebody, and began picking up fallen chairs and placing them at their tables. Some of the others laughed, but the newer folks looked nervously at Fuzzy.
You can probably stop that one there.
Oh, my voice is coming back. The cough.
Yeah, let's not overdo it. It's already 8:20, and we'll take some time. Maybe if you guys got questions about characters, or if the guys in chat want to ask questions, or
yeah, let's head over to the chat. I haven't looked at it at all yet.
I don't want to strain your voice. You sound like me.
It's awful. I think there's something going around. I'm gonna get a throat candy.
Medicine.
Medicine.
Candy.
Throat candy. We call them throat sweets. I don't. Do you call them like lozenges or like
Lozenges, yeah.
Yeah.
Cough drop or lozenge.
cough drop?
Throat sweets. That's
Throat
weird. That's a weird.
A throat sweet. It is a sweet for your throat.
I mean, it's straightforward. It just sounds a little.
It does sound like a Beatrix Potter character, doesn't it?
Do you think it would help heal your throat more if you just kind of like tried to half swallow it and let it sit there in your throat?
I wonder. It's got to be worth a shot, right?
That would be a fun game for everybody to see how long they could do it.
Right.
Just like right there.
How long can you fight your gag reflex?
See, for me, it would be like that's
I
how
would
Will
totally
fight.
win.
I don't know. I could give you a good innings. Something I've been working on for a while. I'm very proud. Very proud of my that was amazing. So how was it for you, Dave?
Cheers.
Was it good?
We're gonna be head to head.
Does Fuzzy sound big enough?
Yeah, in this part of the book, he's still a cub. He gets bigger towards the end of the book, and when he gets to the end of the year. But
that's the end of the book.
He's still.
Sorry, guys. Spoiler alert: Fuzzy grows up and kills everyone.
It starts off with a deep throating competition, but then he just accidentally swallows them back. Easy to do when you're a full-grown bear.
Oh, God. You guys are corrupting Fuzzy. Bobby's always trying to corrupt Fibble, get Fibble to do a porno. You guys are messing with my characters, man.
The world we're
He corrupted
living in,
himself.
It's the world we're living in.
Yeah.
No, Bobby's not here. So, any of the characters that you've run across so far that you got questions about, or
I don't have any so far. There was a character kind of early on when I was recording, and I was like, I'll put in a placeholder voice for now, and then I'll like check with Dave and see what he's supposed to sound like. And then like 5 minutes later, he died, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay, cool.
Are there new female characters, new substantial female characters that belong to me?
There are new female characters.
But he's gonna cast it later.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think it's already pretty much cast. Okay, so there's Austin.
Who were the female?
The main ones are Meg, Amanda, Nancy, Chloe, Andrea, Steak. Lily, the seamstress. There's a new one. Oh wait, we're still in book 2. It's hard for me to differentiate between 2 and 3 because I already finished 3.
I guess particularly because book 3 just came out this week, and so that's what's on your mind. And we're here like on book 2 talking to you about, and you're like, wait, hold on, that was
I just between writing and editing, I've been through book 3 like 9 times in the last 3 weeks, so it's stuck in here. But there's some side female characters that are in for a scene or 2 and then back out. People that get rescued, people that are fighting.
Wait, who's Virginia? Is she?
She's she's a side character at the Laramie Stadium. She's a healer. She's a recurring character. Okay. She's not a main character, but she's a recurring character.
Yeah, she wrote up in like chapter 2 or 3, I think, for the first time.
Yeah,
I don't remember Austin.
Austin is a kid that also lives at Laramie who has probably 10 or 12 lines.
Okay.
Through this book. He's a teenager, anxious to get in the fight, but not being allowed to. But he does kill somebody. Oh, spoiler alert.
But will we know who? Who knows?
Right.
Amazing.
Does Loki have any more lines in this one?
Yes, but not like half a dozen or something. Not a lot. The aliens are just short scenes 3 or 4 times in each book.
Are they eventually going to become kind of like a large part of it? Like, is there going to be a book kind of like further down the line where all of a sudden they're like in it?
They are the end of the ultimate arc through the whole series. They're the ones that caused all this to happen. They're the ones that Alistair wants to kill when he gets strong enough. So they're like the final boss of the whole series.
Amazing. I was hoping that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh yeah. Very
cool. Very cool. Well, I'm going to have to bounce in about 5 minutes. My throat sweet is kicking in. But this has been a ton of fun. I hope that you guys have enjoyed watching us bringing some characters to life on another Soundbooth Theatre Live. What are you guys up to for the rest of your weekend? Are you doing anything fun? Dave, I assume you're celebrating another successful release. A beer or a whiskey or two.
That's every day. But yeah, I will. I'll be obsessively checking the rankings on my phone while I'm typing the Fibble book. So that's the rest of my weekend.
Nice. How about you, Jeff?
Going to see Joker tomorrow.
Nice. Very
cool.
I'm really excited for that.
Nice.
Amazing.
I've been waiting all year for this stupid movie to come out.
I didn't even know it was a thing until I saw a commercial for it the other day, and I was like, "Huh, they're making that. Cool." How about you, Annie? Any fun plans?
Yeah, I've got I'm rehearsing with 2 different bands that I'll be working with later this month. I'm breaking out my old saxophone for one of the songs on my Halloween gig. So I'm going to be pulling together Halloween costume and treats for the prizes that I'm giving out for the Halloween costume competition I'm holding at my show.
Incredible.
And
I had no idea you were a saxophonist.
saxophone. I'm not really. I played in high school, but I was like, you know what would be really funny and a crowd pleaser is if I just worked up a saxophone part to one of the songs. And there's this one song that's really old timey Kurt Weill kind of song that I do. That I'm gonna do like an intro line with my real saxophonist, and he's gonna help me sort of. I'm going to pull out all the little tricks, like the little trills and
make it sound all splendiferous.
Yeah, and they're going to eat it up.
Exactly. That's amazing. My dad just gave me his old clarinet. And so I've been, and for a long time, I didn't realize I had the mouthpiece on the wrong way around, and I was like, "Fuck, it's really hard." I'd forgotten how hard it was to make a sound.
Very, very difficult. I cannot imagine.
But I feel like I went through a trial by fire of standing there blue in the face for an hour making horrible squeaking noises until finally I was able to make a good sound from it. And then my friend came over and watched me and was like, "Will, the mouthpiece is on backwards."
And then you turned it around and you're like, "Oh my God."
I was like, "Oh, this is easy. This is so
walking
easy."
on a cloud.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was great. But I too have grand designs of using it in some music. But I'm in a similar situation to you where it can sound pretty when I want it to, but if I move out of my root scale, I'm fucked.
Yeah,
I
I'm not gonna take a ride on a random song, but I could take a very rehearsed ride,
exactly.
For 16 bars.
Why does it sound so good? Because I've done it 7,000 times and it's just muscle memory at this point. Exactly. Well, lovely. Well, this has been a ton of fun. Dave, thanks again for coming on and for trusting us with your various babies.
Thank you guys for doing it.
Of course. I hope everybody has a great rest of their evening. I'm off to make some margaritas with my roommate. Hooray! And I'll see you all soon. And we will, if you stay tuned to Soundbooth Theatre in our Facebook group, we have a Discord. Everything's in the video description here, all of the links for all of the various different ways in which you can keep in touch and you can keep updated with how we're doing with the various projects. If you join our Discord server, you can come in and listen to me narrating Shadow Sun live as I go. Narrating Shadow Sun live. And
that's what we all sound like to you, huh?
Pretty much. You all sound like, the librarian off of Ghostbusters.
Well, hi, fellas. I'm an American.
Well, boy, howdy, and sabadoodle. It's better than sounding British, where you just sound bored.
Yeah, you do American much better than I do British. So.
I'm glad. I spent a lot of time doing this. All right, cool, guys. Have a lovely weekend, and see you soon.
Bye, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Great to see you all.
How do I end broadcast?
Oh, no.